Just as I promised, I'm finally back. This time with a complete breakdown of the story behind Blood Message. I've carefully analyzed every trailer and every piece of information released so far, and I think there are a few important things you should know about the game's world and story before you jump in. Understanding this background will help you make much more sense of the events, characters, and the journey you'll experience throughout the game. On top of that, I'll also be sharing my own theories and analysis, explaining what I believe is really happening behind the scenes of the trailers and what secrets they might be hiding. So, without wasting any more time, let's dive into the story of Blood Message.
According to the game's trailers, the story of Blood Message takes place across two different periods of ancient China. One of them follows the main character during his youth, which we'll talk about later, while the other focuses on his middle-aged years, with those events taking place around the year 848 AD. At that time, China was ruled by the Tang Dynasty, one of the most powerful, prosperous, and influential dynasties in the country's history. The Tang Dynasty came to power in 618 AD and ruled China until 907 AD, lasting for nearly 290 years. Many historians consider this period to be the golden age of China, as the economy reached incredible levels of growth, a powerful military protected the empire's borders, and art, literature, and culture experienced remarkable development. Most importantly, the Silk Road reached its peak during this era, turning China into one of the world's greatest centers for trade and cultural exchange. This historical setting serves as the foundation for the world of Blood Message and plays a major role in shaping the events of the game. In the game's trailers, the Silk Road is mentioned several times, and it will most likely play an important role in the story. But what exactly was the Silk Road? Long ago, before airplanes, trains, or modern ships existed, people had to travel long distances on foot or with the help of pack animals in order to trade and transport goods. The Silk Road was not actually a single road. It was a massive network of trade routes that connected East Asia with the Middle East, Africa, and Europe for more than 2,000 years, making it one of the most important trade networks in the ancient world. But why was it called the Silk Road? At that time, China was the only country capable of producing high-quality silk. Silk was considered an extremely luxurious and valuable product among the elites of Europe and the Middle East, creating enormous demand for it. Because silk was the most famous and important commodity transported along these routes, this vast trading network became known as the Silk Road. Of course, silk was not the only product exchanged along these routes. Other valuable goods such as tea, spices, porcelain, and paper traveled from east to west, while products like horses, gold, carpets, glass, and jewelry were transported from west to east. However, the importance of the Silk Road went far beyond trade. These routes allowed different civilizations to exchange culture, knowledge, art, and even religions, leaving a deep impact on the history of the world. Now that we understand the Silk Road, we can better see why this route is so important in the story of Blood Message. Now, let's get back to the story of the game. Blood Message takes place in 848 AD, roughly 93 years after the Anlushan Rebellion. By this point, the Tang Empire is no longer the powerful force it once was. Many provinces have fallen into instability, regional governors are fighting each other for power, and threats along the empire's borders continue to grow. It is during this turbulent period that one of the most important historical events of the era takes place, the Shazhou Uprising. In the early 8th century, the Tibetan Empire captured much of the Tang Empire's western territory, including the strategically important city of Shazhou. The city remained under Tibetan occupation for nearly 70 years. Then, in 848 AD, a local leader named Zhang Yichao led the people of the region in a rebellion against the Tibetan forces. They successfully liberated Shazhou and continued their campaign to reclaim other occupied territories. Following this victory, Zhang Yichao decided to send news of the city's liberation to the Tang capital, Chang'an. He wrote a letter announcing his victory, while also requesting military reinforcements from the empire.
This historical event is most likely the inspiration behind the main mission of Blood Message.
The game's trailers revealed that 10 other messenger groups were also sent to deliver the same message. However, based on the clues shown throughout the trailers, it appears that every one of them was killed along the way, leaving only the group led by the main character. In the game, we play as Captain Pei, whose mission is to deliver this letter to the capital. It's a journey of nearly 1,000 miles, taking him across vast deserts, snow-covered mountains, violent sandstorms, and dangerous mountain passes. But this journey is more than just a military mission. Throughout the entire expedition, Pei is accompanied by his son, Ning, and the relationship between the two appears to be one of the central themes of the story. Based on what we've seen in the trailers, Ning has joined the Shazhou Uprising and dreams of fighting to save his homeland. His father, however, has spent years on the battlefield and has witnessed the true horrors of war. Because of that, he desperately wants to protect his son from suffering the same fate. This difference in perspective creates conflict and tension between father and son, a relationship that seems destined to become just as important to the story as the mission itself.
In one of the game's trailers, we see a much younger version of Captain Pei fighting in the middle of a fierce battle. The developers haven't officially revealed when this conflict takes place, but based on the clues we've seen so far, I believe it most likely occurs around 813 AD. At this point in his life, Captain Pei is a skilled and battle-hardened warrior who believes victory can only be achieved through combat. Alongside a group of local fighters, he stands against the forces of the Tubo Empire, the Tibetan Empire. According to the information released so far, this battle is part of the Tang Dynasty's efforts to reclaim the Hexi Corridor from the Tibetans, a region that had remained under their control for more than 50 years. But why was the Hexi Corridor so important? The Hexi Corridor was a strategic passage in northwestern China and one of the most vital sections of the Silk Road. Whoever controlled this corridor effectively controlled one of the world's most important trade routes, making it a constant battleground between rival powers. In 763 AD, while the Tang Dynasty was still weakened by the aftermath of the Anlushan Rebellion, the Tubo Empire seized the opportunity to capture the Hexi Corridor, along with many of the Tang's western cities, including Shazhou.
Yes, the same Shazhou we talked about earlier, which was finally liberated during the Shazhou Uprising in 848 AD. Judging by the scenes shown in the trailers, it appears that Captain Pei is ultimately defeated in his battle against the Tubo forces. However, how he survives the conflict remains a mystery, one that the game will likely answer. Fast forward about 35 years, and Captain Pei is no longer the fearless young warrior he once was. He is now an experienced man, worn down by decades of war and hardship. It is at this moment that a monk entrusts him with a mission that could change the fate of the Tang Empire, to deliver a letter whose contents may determine the Empire's future. And that is where the main adventure of Blood Message truly begins.
Well, now we have a much clearer picture of the historical events behind the wars, characters, and moments featured in the Blood Message trailers. Of course, the developers have only revealed a limited amount of information about the game's story so far, and much of this analysis is based on the available trailers and historical evidence. Because of that, some of these details may turn out to be different once the game is finally released. That said, based on everything we know today, I think this analysis provides a solid understanding of the game's world and the historical events that inspired it. If you have any questions about the story, the characters, or the real history behind the game, be sure to leave them in the comments. I'll collect the most interesting ones and answer them in a dedicated extra video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.